Hello and welcome to this section. In this section, we will learn about numerical variables. This section mainly includes the following knowledge points. First, we will talk about the introduction of numerical variables, and then we will talk about the use scenarios of numerical variables. Finally, we will introduce the basic usage of numerical variables. First of all, let's come to the first point to briefly introduce our numerical variables. Numerical variables are the basic types that can be used to store numerical values, including our floating point or integer, that is, our decimal or integer, and so on. Numerical variable can be either a definite value or a formula whose result is numerical after operation. Third, in addition to assigning values to numerical variables can also operate on their own stored contents. The operation methods include +1, 1, plus n, generating random numbers, generating random integers, etc. So what are the usage scenarios for numeric variables? Generally speaking, numerical variables are generally used to store data of various data types, such as our age, product output, sales, etc. The values that will be used for our numerical calculation can be used for our variables. So please pay attention to this. Here we mark such a value directly in red. As far as the text variable is different from ours, the biggest difference is whether you will finally make a calculation result for such a value. If you can't use it for calculation, then this variable can be stored with our text variable. If it can be used for calculation, it will be stored with our numerical variable. Here is a very classic example. What should our mobile phone numbers be stored with? Mobile phone number, you see, it's all a series of numbers, right? But for us, will you use this number to calculate it? You won't, will you? You won't store a person's mobile phone number, and then you make a +1, 1, and then become a new effect. You won't use it like this, right? Therefore, for us, the mobile phone number will not be stored as our numerical variable, it will be stored as a text variable because it is not used for calculation. Similarly, no matter our age, you will be 12 years old this year and 13 years old next year. Then the product output will be used to calculate a total amount of our product output, and then the sales it will also count our total sales, and a series of achievements. Therefore, whenever we will use the value for numerical calculation, we will use our numerical variables for a storage. Then we will tell you the basic usage of numerical variables. Similarly, we need to open our editor. We will display our numerical variables in the application name, and then click a Create button. The same good habit of health preservation is to add a page under the front end. First, we will add our numerical variables, and the adding scheme is still very good, it's simple. Just select the parent list corresponding to it, and our numerical variable will be okay. What is the numerical variable? It's a capital N here, which is our number, which is our numerical variable. Let's click it for the property of any of our variables. It has and only stores such a property, so here we can write one of its values freely. For example, this is called 12. Please note that there is a characteristic of the numerical variable here. When I go to copy it, you can see that there will be a mark for me to add and subtract an entry. Here, let's write it casually and let it become a 20. Then this is a numerical variable of our foundation. First, we start from the most basic event. An event is, of course, our assignment event. Assignment is very simple. When it is clicked, we perform an assignment operation on our numerical variable. Here, we let it be assigned as 123. Then, of course, you can choose a digit to be rounded to 4 or 5. If you assign a dynamic value here, you finally want to let it for rounding, you can select the number of digits to be rounded here. Here we make a copy of our text variable, and then we let the text variable print a value of its own, and then we have a preview here. This is not to click a check, go to the control assignment, and you can see that he is now copied to 123, because he called us such an assignment event and printed the current value, and then this side, what does a rounded digit mean? Let me give you an example. For example, here is a value such as 123.45, and then the 4 round 5 digits are 1. Let's have a preview. You can see that, because I have 4 round 5 digits as 1, it only keeps one decimal place. So, does 0.45 and 5 need to be rounded, so the final result is 123.5. For example, here we are to keep 2 decimal places, we write a 2 here, and then change this to a 123.456, and then we preview an effect. When I click on an assignment, it becomes a 123.46, but please note that in our JS, its 4 to 5 rounding is not so strict. Generally speaking, we do not make a 4 to 5 rounding, or do we perform a rounding with our function, for example, our function math.cla or math.floor, a series of functions. Before we learned the formula editor and our functions, we gave you a simple explanation. A 45-digit number here is just convenient for us to simply debug. So similarly, let's simply demonstrate here. Here is a simple effect. Looking at this preview, 191817 can see that it becomes a method of self-test. Then, there is also an operation of adding n and subtracting n. Let's first look at the operation of adding n. Adding n means that you write a value here. Of course, if you write a value equals 1 here, it is no different from adding 1. Look here, it means self-esteem, but if you write a value here, for example, you increase 11, and then predict, take a look, and then add it. You can see that it adds a value of 11 every time, that is, a fixed value, and performs a self-increment. There is also a value of -n here. For example, you need to subtract a value of -9 each time. If we have a look at the same preview, he will subtract 9 every time we click, and 9 every time we don't click, and then it will eventually be reduced to an assignment. This is also a very many operations we use in the numerical variables. Then there is a very high-frequency operation, that is, high-frequency operation. In our previous courses, we only used what operation? Yes, it is our random number. This is actually our old friend. Did we often use such an event when we were doing the marketing interaction topic? Similarly, there are 2 kinds of random numbers generated by selecting on numerical variables. One is random numbers, and the other is our random integers. If you generate random numbers, you can write them here. For example, if we generate random numbers within 0-100, what will be the random numbers generated in this way? It will have decimals. So here, let's print out this paper for you to see. When I click, it will be generated automatically, and it will have a series of decimals, but sometimes we don't want small things, just like our other white blocks. Do we only let it have 4 positions, so it is generated as an integer? Yes. So here we choose to generate a random integer, and let it generate 1 within 0-3. Then it has 4 values such as 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Then it will always generate such 4 values, and then we can easily carry out a series of controls. The above is all about this section. Thank you for watching.